We're going to work on Federalist number 19. This will be part 1. Madison and Hamilton are going to tell the American people, look at these ancient and not so ancient confederacies. We have studied history, we have looked at them, and all of them ended up in disaster. And if we do not adopt this new Constitution, we will be just a confederacy like them. It will be war, chaos, unhappiness, misery for everyone in all the 13 states. So, like I told you in the last Federalist, one of the important things that Madison did was to read all the books that his friend Thomas Jefferson had sent him from France. These were books on world history, on confederations, and Madison studied these and looked at what was wrong with them. Why had they all ended up in disaster and wars? And based on those, he wrote 18, 19, and 20. Of course, Hamilton, I believe, has helped them according to what the scholars say. So these 3 papers are in brief world history, the way they saw it back then. And now I already told you, these are the ones that are very important when you study the Federalist Papers. When you have time, you can look this up online. It's available on National Archives, everywhere. These notes, these are Madison's memoranda or notes that he'd made based on studying the confederacies, ancient and modern. And also, this one is very important, vices of the political system of the United States. Remember, vice is the opposite of virtue. Virtue is what's good for the community, what a person can do, especially in a republic, that will be not only good for that person, but also for the good of the community, for freedom, for prosperity. Vice is exactly the opposite. So Madison studied the history and the governments and the Constitution of the 13 states from 1776 to 1787, and based on that, wrote down vices of the political system of the United States. I have also added videos by Gordon Wood and Jack Rakoff, by these 2 historians and many others that I will add. Make sure that when you can watch their videos, it will be helpful in understanding American history, in understanding what went into making the Constitution, why they framed it the way they did. Jack Rakoff makes a reference to the vices of the political system of the United States. So these are very helpful and very important. Okay, I'll start reading this, and I also hope that you are listening to the reading of the Federalist Papers by various American volunteers that I've been putting on this playlist. That's from LibriVox. They do great service. So listen to those. I know they read them fast, but that might help you compare and contrast after you've listened to my reading of it. Okay? The examples of ancient confederacies cited in my last paper have not exhausted the source of experimental instruction on this subject. There are existing institutions founded on a similar principle which merit particular consideration. The first which presents itself is the Germanic body. He wants to look at the federal or confederal system that was in place in the area where we call Germany now. Germany, Austria. Back then, Germany was not a nation. It was composed of many little pieces of principalities where it was run by different princes and kings. So this is Germany before it was united. So he says, look at Germany and see what it is. In the early ages of Christianity, Germany was occupied by 7 distinct nations who had no common chief. The Franks, one of the number, having conquered the Gauls, established the kingdom which has taken its name from them. In the 9th century, Charlemagne, its warlike monarch, carried his victorious arms in every direction, and Germany became a part of his vast dominions. Charlemagne, in the year 800, became the strongest person, strongest monarch, or emperor in Western Europe. And he's talking about that guy. And Germany became a part of his vast dominions. On the dismemberment which took place under his sons, this part was erected into a separate and independent empire. Charlemagne and his immediate descendants possessed the reality as well as the ensigns and dignity of imperial power. But the principal vassals, whose fiefs had become hereditary and who composed the national diets which Charlemagne had not abolished, gradually threw off the yoke and advanced to sovereign jurisdiction and independence. Here, the word diet means almost a congress, place where representatives gathered. Back then in Germany and Poland, their congress was called Diet. The force of imperial sovereignty was insufficient to restrain such powerful dependence or to preserve the unity and tranquility of the empire. The most furious private wars, accompanied with every species of calamity, were carried on between the different princes and states. The imperial authority, unable to maintain the public order, declined by degrees till it was almost extinct in the anarchy which agitated the long interval between the death of the last emperor of the Swabian and the accession of the first emperor of the Austrian lines. In the 11th century, the emperors enjoyed full sovereignty. In the 15th, they had little more than the symbols and decorations of power. So here he's trying to remind the people who live in these 13 different states is this is going to become your situation if you do not unite. Because that division amongst you will gradually grow. Foreigners will come and take advantage of you and your weakness, and will make you even divide further and distrust your neighbors. And before you know it, you're either fighting with one another and making yourself weaker, or are looking for people who can help you fight your war with your neighbor, and that means you're going to invite foreign armies, and when foreign armies come in, you're not going to be able to ask them to leave that easily. So again and again, he wants to remind them that this union would be awful for everybody that lived in all the 13 states back then.